All right, there's the next episode of True Wrestling Fan Discussions, continuing our Saturday Night's Main Event review series. It's going to be the main event for. I'm your host, Mike.
I'm Frank. Let's get into it. We got a lot to cover on this one. I said this in the last Saturday Night Main Event review that going forward into this one, the card should have been way more than what this was. Main Event has always been pretty much the event to solve the major feuds. That's what the buildup was when in the first two they did.
That
The third one,
Yeah, that or to lead into like a program like they did with Macho Man and Hogan, how that was a big,
yeah.
you know.
So the matches they had on this one really didn't reflect what the main event stands for. So let's just get into it and I'll explain what I'm talking about. October 30th, 1990, they actually aired this on November 23rd, 1990, the day after the Survivor Series.
Right, which I think hurts, which hurts this because they didn't discuss anything.
Well, they did mention one on the promo with Jake Roberts later on. He did mention now that the Survivor Series was over, Martel was on his own.
Okay, yeah. But it kind of hurt.
Only mention.
Yeah, kind of. If this would have aired before and led into Survivor Series,
exactly,
I think it could have been much better. There's also a thing to note about this, and obviously we're going to get into it when it comes to the Rockers. This was actually a Saturday Night's Main Event taping because if you look at the banner, it's Saturday Night's Main Event, and look at the microphones and everything, it's all Saturday Night's Main Event. But when they put in like the graphics, it says the main event.
Yeah.
Which leads me to believe that it was a Saturday Night's Main Event. But what happened? Remember, Saturday Night's Main Event was longer than the main event. But when the whole thing happened with the Rocker Hart Foundation match and they had to cut it out, I think they just turned it into a main event and threw it on a Friday. That's what I think happened.
So this was from Fort Wayne, Indiana. You had Vince McMahon, Roddy Piper, of course, Piper doing the whole Thanksgiving thing with the turkey, even though this is a couple of weeks prior to this. Now, speaking of the Rockers, it's funny that you brought that up because that was actually supposed to be the opening matchup of this night.
It was.
For the tag team titles, the Hart Foundation versus the Rockers, 2 out of 3 falls match. Now, the Rockers did win this match and won the tag team titles. However, the rope broke. Now, we've said this in the Hart Foundation review, and I believe we mentioned it in the Rockers review as well. There were 2 different versions of what Sean thought was going on.
Right.
The whole Jim Neidhart contract thing, I believe, was a farce. I do not believe that his contract was up and that because he wasn't going to resign, they dropped the tag team titles to them.
And then when he resigned, then they brought him back.
Exactly.
Or he got fired. I don't believe that because he had no leverage.
Exactly.
Leverage. Brett wanted to go solo anyway. So there's really that doesn't make any sense. Vince is not going to say, okay, I'll put the belt back on you if you just come back. Like I don't see Vince not for Neidhart. Maybe for Brett, maybe.
Yeah, Brett, yes. But Neidhart, no.
But no, I don't see that.
So the other version, and it was in the book, Shawn Michaels said that Brett and Vince had politicked for this match,
right,
to keep the titles around their waist. I think this match could have been redone. I think even if they didn't do it that night, you do this at WrestleMania 7, like I said before.
But it's worth mentioning when Brett told the story, this wasn't live. So Brett was telling the ref, stop the match and get the turnbuckle fixed, and we'll just and we can edit around it. And for whatever reason, the ref didn't listen to him, and then it turned into a disaster. And they just kept having the match.
That never came.
Yeah, they kept having the match without the top rope, and it was Neidhart. I think Neidhart gets thrown into the turnbuckle. I think, right? And then it pops off.
And it just explodes.
I didn't even know about this until years later. I had no idea
because this was taped.
Yeah,
unless you were at Fort Wayne that night, you didn't know.
Or unless you really read the dirt sheets back then, which I mean,
I don't even think that it had covered that.
I think probably. I'm talking about but there was no internet back then, so you had to be really in tune with.
In the Daily News, they had the Slammer on Fridays.
But this was maybe I don't even know if in that year if it was even around. But either way, I didn't know. But I think I found out about this on the Shawn Michaels DVD that came out, Heartbreak and Triumph. I think
because that's where they have the match. They have the whole full match on there.
I think prior to this, I didn't even know about it. But what a disaster!
It's a shame too because this is the second tag team that something goes wrong or something goes awry, and Vince is like, I'm not going to do it again.
And then Brett, Neidhart, obviously Jannetty and Shawn, they were ready to tear the house down, and they could have had the rope not broke, and they would have. So they won the titles, and then they get stripped. is what happened. They actually defended the titles against Power and Glory at a house show. And then Vince called Marty and was like, "Yeah, sorry, pal, we're taking the titles off you, but we're gonna put it back on you." And they never put him back on him.
That's where I said that the WrestleMania 7, that should have been the match, or even at the Royal Rumble. You do this match again because you put this on a pay-per-view and you're going to do great. Yeah. And not to mention the numbers on this on the main event, this one was actually pretty good. It was an 8.6 rating, roughly 15 million
viewers. Not bad. Considering it's not live, that's pretty good actually.
It is. Yeah. And mainly I think because the Ultimate Warrior was on the card, he's always going to be a big draw, but who he faced was not who I agreed with it. And in my opinion, I believe it should have been the Macho King Randy Savage. Instead, it's the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase.
Right.
Now, before the match, Mean Gene interviewed Ted DiBiase, and they were talking about the little boy with the basketball, the swimming pool where he bought everybody to get out.
That was good. That was good stuff. That was funny.
And then the double referees at the first main event, and so how he said everybody's got a price, and that money's no object. He was going to do whatever he could to get this title back. It's great that they did this. However, DiBiase's in a program with Dusty Rhodes at this point, and he's not even in a feud with the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like a Saturday Night Main Event match, not the main event match. And if anything, DiBiase and Dusty should have been on the card facing each other. And again, I think Savage should have been on the card facing Warrior this time.
Yeah, I agree. I thought the match was fine though.
It was.
Yeah, Macho.
I love.
Yeah, Macho.
Yeah, I love the quote that Warrior said in the match. "If you want my belt, take it from me." And I was like, "Oh shit, we got a showdown here."
Yeah,
and the
match was a great wrestler. It was a good match.
It was a good match. Warrior had it won. Virgil interferes. It's a disqualification on DiBiase, and then Savage comes down with the scepter, beating the holy hell out of Warrior.
But why would Warrior already accepted the challenge?
Exactly.
Right, his challenge, and he was going to put the title up against him. So why would Macho Man come in and beat up the Warrior, give him a beating? Maybe that's why Warrior ends up reneging on.
Yeah, because at the Rumble he tells Sherry no.
Yeah, because he didn't. I mean, even at Survivor. Yeah, this is right after Survivor Series.
Technically,
yeah.
I mean, even have the match at the Survivor Series. Well, no, don't do that because with the opening match with the Warrior was.
And DiBiase paid him off, right? Didn't he say DiBiase gave him money? I think he said something like that.
Yeah, whatever. But I mean, the match was what it was. There's a huge build up to Warrior and Savage. Unfortunately, I think they waited too long.
They did. I like how Warrior was like looking down, and then he grabs the belt,
and he just raises it up. That place went.
That was great
nuts.
stuff, man. It's little things like that, yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. So following this match, now Mean Gene got into the back. He interviewed Savage and the whole thing, and again, the build up in this is going ballistic. The next match on the card actually didn't even happen. Mean Gene interviewed Sergeant Slaughter. He was scheduled to face Nikolai Volkov, who was already in the ring. Slaughter comes down, beats him up before the bell even rings, so the match is a no contest. Duggan comes down to save Volkov, and we've got this whole thing here. So again, explain to me how Sergeant Slaughter fighting jabronis like Nikolai Volkov gives him the #1 contender spot at the Royal Rumble. I do not understand.
Just because he said so. Just because he said so. I don't know.
Meanwhile, we got the Warrior and Savage, etc. Right. This is chaos at this point. I don't know what Vince is thinking at this point.
Well, I know what he's thinking. We got to find a way to put the belt back on Hulk Hogan.
And speaking of that guy, his match that happens at the next main event should have been this night. Hogan and Tugboat versus Earthquake and Bravo, because now what they've done is they've put that feud into 1991. Now you're really dragging this out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you turn it into like a set.
The feud was already dead.
9-month feud.
It's like dead by then. Yeah.
Once Survivor Series ended, it was over. I mean, it really was over, but they kept it going. And at this point, it's like, okay, we know Earthquake's not getting over on Hogan, so it was ridiculous at the Rumble when it came down to the two of them again. I mean, it was just come on. So. Right before the next match, Mean Gene had interviewed the Big Boss Man. Now they're talking about how
his mother.
It's not Rude anymore.
It's not Rude.
Because Rude's gone.
Rude's gone, so it just falls on Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Exactly, and
that's my mama.
Heenan was funny during this. I'll get to it after the match.
It was great.
Oh, definitely. This segment was awesome. And what's funny is not only does it fall on Heenan, but it falls on Perfect as well.
Perfect, yeah, Perfect has to take the fall.
Yeah, and I've said this before in the WrestleMania 7 review. I don't think the two of them should have fought for the IC title at WrestleMania 7. It was kind of a weak feud between the two, but whatever. This match in itself was pretty good because Perfect was definitely selling Boss Man's rage on him during this match.
I mean, Perfect was spectacular at selling. I mean,
exactly.
He's a bumping machine. Him and Rue were bumping machines, man.
And I think that was the problem with Perfect because obviously 91 he has the injury and he has to go out for a while. So overselling them maybe. Yeah. Well, not overselling it, just doing it too much.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, it's possible.
But this match was pretty good. Heenan didn't come down with Perfect to start the match, but once Perfect had Boss Man beat down, all of a sudden here comes Heenan telling Perfect what to do. Gets the Perfect Plex on him. Boss Man kicks out. Now, he tells him to put him against the rope. Heenan's holding the rope down. Yeah. Boss Man reverses it. Now Perfect's out of the ring.
Flips over, yeah.
And Boss Man sees Heenan, chases him down the ramp.
Dude,
which causes the count out.
I could not stop laughing when Heenan just took off, man. See ya. And he was like running for his life.
Yes. This was hilarious. And Boss Man gets counted out. Mr. Perfect gets the victory. I don't think Boss Man cared at this point because he's trying to go through the Heenan family one after the other. And what was funny is right after this match, Mean Gene interviewed Heenan. And Heenan was like, I've gone to Jack Tunney. I've gone to I've said I was sorry. I don't know what else to do. You got to help me. You got to help me. And I was waiting for the Boss Man to show up and kick his ass because now apparently not the stipulation in this match, but if Boss Man would have won, he would have gotten his hands on Bobby Heenan. So eventually he will anyway. So the next segment they did, oh my God, they were talking about how you can eat whatever you want and lose weight, and that was the Playboy Buddy Rose blow away.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Well.
Anyway, moving on.
Yeah.
So following that was the main event, which again, this is a feud that's already over and done with. Does not belong on a main event. It's Tito Santana versus the model Rick Martel.
The feud is dead by now, man. I mean, they're great wrestlers. They're great workers.
They will always tear the house down against each other.
You know, this feud was already like
a year and a half
past it.
I mean, if anything, this night it should have been Martel and Roberts one-on-one, since they have the feud going on. You know, with the whole arrogance thing. I mean, the match was pretty good. Martel got the victory with the Boston Crab. He made Tito submit.
Tito loses. What else is new?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and this is like so out of date. This didn't need to be there that night. But what was really interesting after this match was that Mean Gene interviewed Jake the Snake Roberts about the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing I liked on his quote, when he said, "You rolled the dice, they came up snake eyes."
Yep.
I had chills on goosebumps. I was like, "Oh shit!"
He takes the sunglasses off.
He's got the one eye.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, granted, his whole team got their butt kicked at Survivor Series. They all got eliminated. But I think on this night, this should have been a one-on-one match, not the blindfold match we had later on.
That was garbage. But they were saving
it. Was.
They were saving it for WrestleMania. So
they were saving a lot of feuds for WrestleMania. That this is why the ratings kind of in 1990 were dipping, because he was waiting on too many of these.
Yeah.
And it didn't make any sense. So this main event, I mean, it drew. I remember I watched it.
Don't forget the Warrior promo. Warrior has that great.
No, I wasn't done. We got Warrior. Right. They closed the night closed out with Warrior's promo on the Macho King Randy Savage, and that was just money.
Yeah, he took a page out of Hogan's book though when he said he saw tears in the eyes of the Warriors.
He described the tendons, the muscles, everything.
The belt, in regards to the belt,
with the Warriors.
That was great stuff, man. Warriors.
It was. He always gave a great promo.
Yeah.
If you
got
can
you fired up,
what
man.
He was saying.
He just got you fired up, man. Comic book character come to life. That's the best way to describe the Warrior.
Exactly.
Just a comic book character come to life.
And a man that should have still been champion through WrestleMania 7.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Even if he lost the title to Savage this night or the Rumble, you get it back at WrestleMania 7, title versus career, saying, if I can't beat you, I'm done.
I know, but unfortunately they wanted to put the belt back on Hogan, so we got what we got. But
imagine if he had triple threat matches back then.
Yeah.
What you
But
have to put the three of them in the ring.
But like you said, this was, I mean, it was all right. It was entertaining. I watched it too when I watched it live when it first aired. It's just a shame like we mentioned in the beginning about that Rockers match. I mean, if this would have been a great Saturday night's main event if we would have gotten the Rockers versus the Hart Foundation and the rope didn't break and we saw the title change hands.
Even do the rematch at the next main event. Just don't up and give up on it and be like, all right, I'm done with the idea, forget it. And the Nasty Boys get the titles. I don't understand that. But that's just been Vince over the last 40 years. That's been him.
Yeah, he's very hit or miss. He's either super brilliant or he does something stupid. Like, yeah.
Well, he did more good last 8 years, something stupid.
Well, we can't.
I know.
I don't even count. I'm talking about like during this era. But he was more hit than miss. To be fair, in this era, you know. But
gobbledygooker the night before.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Well, that's our latest review. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Let us know what you guys think. See you guys soon.
Take care.